Okay, next up we have friends of the channel, Nick Cannon and
Cannon.
Jada Pinkett Smith.
Cannon.
Both of these people are friends of the channel. So Nick Cannon is happy that Jada Pinkett Smith's Red Table Talk Show has been canceled. Um, the Red Table Talk Show is no longer going to air new episodes. It's been canceled by Facebook because Facebook, I believe, is phasing out that whole aspect of what they do, Meta, Facebook, whatever the hell you want to call them. And Nick Cannon thinks that it's a good thing that that show is over and done with. So, for the purposes of context, so Nick Cannon was on his Glass Cannon podcast show, and the
Oh,
subject of the Red Table Talk Show being canceled came up, and they talked about it, and so Nick Cannon spared no expense to make it clear that he was glad that that show is being canceled. So this
damn.
is an article from Yahoo Entertainment. It says Nick Cannon calls Jada Pinkett Smith's Red Table Talk Show toxic, praises cancellation. Nick Cannon recently pointed out what he considered apparently a blemish in the Smith family's legacy. The comedian, who most recently welcomed his 12th child, publicly celebrated the cancellation of Jada Pinkett Smith's Red Table Talk series, which was scrapped along with Facebook Watch's original programming because he claimed that Toxic Table ruined the couple's Hollywood royalty status. Quote, if there was no Red Table Talk, then he wouldn't have slapped the shit out of Chris Rock, said Cannon during a segment of his The Daily Cannon radio show earlier this week. So it's not a podcast, it's a radio show. Quote, that was royalty, Will and Jada. Then they brought it to the table. The Wild and Out host continued, I don't want to know all this shit about y'all. Cannon's remarks echoed a sentiment seen across social media over the years that Will and Jada Pinkett Smith, though successful as movie stars and beloved as a pair, were using the internet to fuel their vanity by airing out their dirty laundry in public. Quote, I just want to mind my black owned business, end quote, said Cannon. I don't want to be up in everybody else's kitchen. Keep that shit to yourselves. Jada infamously discussed her entanglement with a younger man during an episode of the show in 2020 with Will, whose morose and distressed facial expressions went viral as a meme.
Hmm.
Then in 2022, after a joke by Chris Rock about the Set It Off actor's alopecia, Will slapped Rock in front of millions on live TV at the Oscars.
He ain't saying about how alopecia. They need to
No,
stop.
he didn't. Yeah, that I know. People that it gets reported like that. Chris Rock did not mention that, so people need to stop with that. But here is an excerpt from that from the radio show where Nick Cannon is talking about this.
Meta has shut down Facebook Watch Original, Red Table Talk, and others. Yeah.
No.
So there's no more Red Table Talk. But according to Deadline, the series
Good.
producer
What do you mean
is
good?
shopping the Emmy
Stop, Nick.
winning series somewhere else, Nick.
If there was no red table talk, then
No, 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 no,
you
no,
wouldn't
no,
have
no.
slapped the
Allow
shit
us
out of
for
Chris
No, no,
Rock.
no, 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 no,
Tell
no,
your
no,
parents
no,
to
no,
save
no.
for
Are you
your
talking
wedding
about
and
just
give
that
you a ring.
situation?
I'm talking about that.
Switch to
toxic
Xfinity
table.
Mobile and save
No, no, no,
25%
no,
It's
no.
over
not.
T
It's
The
an
Mobile.
table
honest
is
table.
raised
on
Too
ones
much
and the limit.
honesty can get your ass slapped in the face. We've
Well,
seen this.
A good slap is what people need
That
sometimes.
table was toxic. They
They're
made all them memes
very
about my
quite
brother
times.
Will on
They
that damn
did.
table.
They
They
was
didn't need. They
wildin'.
ain't need to do that.
Well, listen, Will agreed to come to the damn
I'm getting
table.
a red
Mhm.
table.
It's at his house. I gotta walk by this motherfucking table every day. That was royalty. Will and Jada. We
They
worked.
were.
They are.
And then they brought us to the
still.
table.
No, no,
We
no,
like,
no.
I don't want to know all this
It
shit
made them
about
feel.
y'all.
It feels like human, like they're human, and it feels
Mhm.
like relatable because
You-
they're trash too,
Yes.
just like all of
Yes,
us.
exactly.
What?
I want to mind my black-owned business.
You can't
I don't
mind
want to
it when
be
they
in.
start
I
talking.
don't want to be up in everybody else's kitchen. Keep that shit to yourselves.
I'm getting a red table.
You should get a
You'll
red
be at the
Period.
table by your
Girl,
goddamn.
nobody want to know about your
Fuck that table.
dirty table. I don't believe that. Unbelievable. Wow.
I don't know. I don't know what I feel more strongly about. How appreciative I am of what Nick Cannon said, or how disgusted I am of what the rest of those women said.
I mean, what are you
Um,
talking about?
I don't know. I don't know. It's out of control. The fact that they actually thought that that show was a good thing, or at least maybe not the whole show, but that incident. That was atrocious. The one light skinned girl with the shorter hair who was talking about how it makes them more relatable, and she's gonna go and get her own red table. She's disgusting. She's a disgusting human being. She is. But but what were your thoughts on that whole exchange and what Nick Cannon said about this show being canceled?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I agree with him. And I think he has a close relationship with Will. So the show was toxic, man. It didn't help the culture at all. It just made everybody think that being in dysfunctional relationships was okay, like the crazy one said. And oh yeah, so even Will and Jada live in shitty conditions. So why can't I? What sense does that even make? So so yeah, it's relatable for shitty people, but everybody else that doesn't aspire to live like that looks at this situation and go, hey man, that's a messed up situation. It's nothing clean about that. And did she have to do this? You know, publicly humiliate her marriage for a check? And you know, we've discussed about it before, and you know, I just felt like her angle was, I got to tell my story. But I mean, write it in a book. And I don't know what all this other stuff is doing, but you know, this stuff is yeah, it's tainted everything. So I agree with him. I felt like it wasn't in good taste. If it was just her just talking about red table stuff, you know, instead of her marriage and her inner house, like relationships, like what is that? We don't need to hear that. So I agree with Nick there. But the ladies that were just talking about all that other noise, that's the problem that I have with new people right now. I mean, and then they're not really even that new, but I mean, they're like around our age, but I mean, we starting to act like them, man. And but go ahead, man. How do you feel about this? You think Mr. Cannon was off base with this one, or do you agree?
Yeah, I agree with Nick Cannon. It's too bad that
Mm.
people are defending, you know, like even if you think that putting your personal business out for public consumption in that way is a good thing because it makes you relatable. That's the most ridiculous. That was the most ridiculous part of that whole video to me was when she said that. That was absolutely absurd. Because the thing is the price that Will Smith in particular paid for that worth his increased relatability? Is it? And relatable to who? People don't desire to be in dysfunctional situations. Maybe you do because you think it's cool to have fights on social. You think watching couples fight on social media is cool, and maybe you enjoy the entertainment spectacle of seeing couples throw wine glasses at each other on reality TV shows, and so you think that this kind of stuff is endearing. But there's a whole swath of people out here who seek peace in their relationships, not turmoil and chaos. And turmoil and chaos is not indicative of relatability. It's indicative of something that you want to eliminate so that you can go back to peace and tranquility. Peace and tranquility is what's relatable because that's what people most desire, not chaos. So for that chick to talk about how it made them more relatable, I'm not buying that because, in my opinion, okay, yeah, everyone goes through stuff, but everyone doesn't want to languish in what they go through. You want to eliminate that kind of stuff from your life. So what's relatable is wanting to eliminate it. Clearly, that whole ordeal on that show and Will's subsequent appearance sitting next to her at the table as she went through this, talking about it publicly, it didn't eliminate their turmoil. It didn't. Because had it eliminated the turmoil, he wouldn't have did what he did publicly to Chris Rock. It would have been over. Obviously, it continued and it festered and it boiled over in a moment of public embarrassment when he did slap the hell out of Chris Rock on a stage like that. So I don't think I don't think like committing to a behavior that sees you continuing to live in a state of chaos makes you more relatable. If anything, presenting chaos is only relatable when it's presented within the context of wanting to remove it. But that was not removing chaos, that was adding to it. In the aftermath of that whole situation, like Cannon said, Will's facial expressions being on that show became a meme that still gets used to this day. An R&B singer made a song about it. He made a song about it and put a platinum selling rapper as a feature on the song to boost the song's popularity and reach. It was a number one hip hop hit. It's on my Spotify playlist to this day.
Hysterical.
How are you going to? What about that is relatable? I'm not trying. Like I know that relationships can become dysfunctional and chaotic. But what that did was normalize it to the point that it made people feel as though dysfunctionality and chaos is something that you can aspire to in your relationship. Even your favorite Hollywood people do it.
Yeah.
Like this speaks to me of something that we often talk about on this channel. It's an ongoing theme of the normalization of certain behaviors that ought not to be normalized. And this is one of them. Chair throwing, drink throwing, fighting, slapping, what do you like to say? Throwing drinks at Sunday brunch and having the mimosas.
That's what they be doing.
Right. This is where this comes from. It's the normalization of dysfunctional behavior. So I guess because now in 2023 it's cool to be dysfunctional. When we have certain role models that put their dysfunctionality on display for public consumption, we can now say, "Oh, okay, cool. Behavior normalized. Now I can continue to languish in my dysfunctional relationship because it's cool. Maybe I can get a deal out of it." Like she said, I'll get my own red table. Hell, I'll record our fights and put them on TikTok and Instagram because we're in such a narcissistic society now. So I'm with Cannon. And you can say what you want about Nick Cannon and his zillion kids. I don't know anything about the details of any of his relationships or the dynamics between him and any of his children's mothers. I don't know about any of that because Cannon keeps that kind of stuff close to the vest. You got to give him credit for that at least, whatever you think about him and all of his kids, because it's about peace and tranquility, not chaos. Cannon don't want chaos. And so Cannon is speaking from a place of reason. And unfortunately, a lot of people today don't. They speak from a place of lack of reason. There are a lot of people today are unreasonable, and it's sad and unfortunate.
I mean, it's easy, like you was mentioning earlier, like it's easy for people to be dysfunctional. So it doesn't require any work. And so it's easy to be irresponsible. You don't have to do anything. So the easy thing to do. So I have a theory, I guess. It's probably already out there in some philosopher's book or whatever. But people want to do nothing all the time. If there's anything that's innate, it's to want to do nothing. Now, when I say do nothing, now then there's people, of course, that have work ethic and they do things. So I'm not just saying whatever. But I think default mode for humans is just to be lazy. It's to do the irresponsible thing by not doing the thing. And so that's why people have to, like you said, like decision making is a skill. You have to, I think, having good habits about yourself is a skill that you have to develop. And if there's an area that you choose to be air quote lazy in, you have to have the ability to go, I don't have to be lazy over there. And you have to work your way out of that. And so like school, for instance, people don't want to do school. Some people enjoy school. They enjoyed learning, but you know what? You can go to hell with this paper due tomorrow night. But I got to do it. And so, yeah, I'm doing something that I don't want to do, but, I'm achieving a goal, but I would rather do nothing. So That's what I mean by it's the easy thing to do, but you still have to fight past that because you know that there's something important on the other end of it. So when people are getting validation to just be shitty, oh, I don't have to actually work on myself. No, you don't. Because this person's worse than you. You ain't see they post? God damn. Their life is worse than mine. And their life is worse than mine porn that people watch all the damn time. They need to check that. And if you're watching people's life circumstances just because theirs are shittier than yours, that should be a red flag to you that I think my life's pretty shitty. And instead of doing the nothing thing, the easy thing, the lazy thing, it's not who you are. It's just something that you have to work through. But people choose not to. And so women like that girl over there that was like, yep, I knew everybody was living crappy just like me. It's like, no, the people that they promote in front of us, they tend to live crappy lives because, well, they kind of need to. And the people that do live, respectable lives, you don't hear from, you don't hear about Denzel until the Equalizer is coming out.
Shouts out, they got part 3 coming out. Part 3 coming out.
Yeah, so
Equalizer 3.
Yeah, so Denzel he got a son in Hollywood. His son, as far as I'm concerned, ain't out here wilding. He's just doing his thing, on the low key. Denzel is just out here chilling. And so, there's people out there, you can be respectable in Hollywood, but for the most part, a lot of them aren't. And so to hear about what's actually going on in a weirdo's household, because that's what they are. And then now you don't think it's a weirdo, not you, but people that's, oh, you don't think they're weird? That Jaden Smith brings on his boyfriend, then the mom starts having sex with him in the house. You don't think that's weird? And then they want to get on TV and then tell everybody about it? Emasculate your husband in front of you? Don't think this is weird behavior? So why wouldn't Will get on stage and slap? Actually, just speaking out this timeline, like Nick Cannon said, hey, why is that not the next step? These are weirdos. This whole family. And so, sorry for the kids, but their parents put that energy on them. So this is not so much for the kids, man, because, they out here trying their best. But Will and Jada, they was kooky from the start. So high key, they deserve each other. So anyways, yeah, I do think it was messy. They did not need to put this on air. But they're going to still find a way to get this to the masses. Facebook is just having cuts right now. All right. So they just can't afford nothing.
Yeah.
And they need their metrics to look good. So they got to keep firing people and laying stuff off and cutting funds here just so it looks like they're turning a profit. So right now, this is part of the cutting room floor stuff. They're going to find a new network to put their BS on because somebody's funding this goofiness. We don't want to watch it, but they're going to force it in your Facebook or your whatever feeds now. And then people are going to watch it. And hey, man, we said it was a gold mine for content, but here at the Conscious Approach, we flip it on its axis and we take it to another level. So, yeah, man. So their weirdo stuff, they can have it. And whatever those girls were talking about in that room, boy, my skin would be crawling. I don't know how he works with them girls. Jeez Louise.
Well, let's be real. All right. A lot of the women that Nick Cannon associates with are cut from that cloth. I'm not surprised. But Facebook, Meta, whatever you want to call it, they're bleeding red. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they've got to make all kinds of cuts because they're bleeding red. They've made various business ventures that didn't pan out, like the metaverse and all of the rest of this BS that they're trying to push. Plus, they are an active company of censorship. They censor content. They develop all sorts of AI and machine technology that silences people. So people are moving off of them and they're starting to bleed red as a result. That's the reason why this show was canceled, not because of some moral obligation to get rid of it. It's because they're bleeding red. I just, and we get on this channel, or at least I do. Sometimes I engage in righteous indignation, talking about the way things, how, we're just, slowly but surely headed towards decay ultimately.
Boy, crazy.
Right. And it's like, the normalization of certain behaviors that shouldn't be normalized is at the root of a lot of this, sexual deviancy, um, and then, just dysfunctional relationships on Front Street and narcissism. Like that red table talk should have been followed by people encouraging them to go to therapy and shut that show down. But we just sort of relish in seeing people upended because we're such narcissists, and then the people who create the content like them they're such narcissists that they will take all the attention that they can get, even if it's attention that's damaging to their self-respect and their own psyche and personal well-being and mental health. Because at the end of the day, the attention and the currency of attention supersedes the right thing. And why do we want to do the right thing anyway, right? Because who cares about that? That's passe and old school anyway. It's just all about what gets the attention and makes the money. And gets the clicks and gets the algorithm fed to your social media feeds. And it sucks because I feel like that family has become a casualty of this dynamic, even though they were willing participants because, yeah, they've been on weird stuff for a while, but they definitely exacerbated their weirdness with these various moves for sure. And again, you cannot convince me that whatever relatability they gained from this experience was worth the price of their public embarrassment. It wasn't worth it. In my opinion, it wasn't. But I guess to the rest of our culture, it is worth it because there's certainly, I guess you can't put a price on the attention, even if that price is infamy and permanent embarrassment. Seriously. And I don't care what anybody says. Will Smith can make all of the slavery movies and Venus and Serena Williams movies that he wants until he retires from acting. This will go down in infamy. And
go ahead.
It won't reflect positively upon him or his career, in my opinion.
And just the attention factor is kind of like the Dylan Brooks situation. Like the Dylan Brooks situation, by the way, should be used as a case study. that was awesome to witness that. It was such instant I don't like the word karma effect, to what he was actually putting out there. His vibes, his seeking attention. He wanted to make a name for himself. And he sure enough did. And I think these people here who are so hung up and so thirsty for attention that they'll put their business out there. This will get people watching and talking about us. We'll be relevant again. And see, that's that crazy part. That's that part that regular people don't understand. But these celebrities, they need another high. I ain't got no movies coming out. I was in the Matrix. Nobody was checking for that. People still think Angela Bassett's a better actress than me. She is. So we just remember you from a couple classics back in the day and in a different world. Other than that, you just, what I'm saying? So it's dry for her. So she wants, this will get people talking. If I put it in a book, which you probably already did or whatever, people aren't
she's writing a book. She's writing a book. Yeah,
now,
she's writing a book.
Yeah. But now it was just like, let me just go ahead and put it out there. So right when COVID happened, things on lockdown, people bored as hell. It was tuning into this mess, and it was great content, like as we mentioned. But these people here, like their moral codes are different, dude. Like they were sleeping with the same man in this house, and he was okay with it, and all this other. Like they're on a different timeline, so they don't care. And so Nick Cannon can say this, but they're saying it to a brick wall, and they're gonna come out with a blue table talk because it's probably copyright infringements or something, and then they're just gonna be out there talking all the blue and dropping all of that on y'all, and then of course we're gonna be covering here on a conscious approach, but we're not gonna be giving you guys the gossip. We're gonna be giving you guys some nuggets about what's actually going on, in the waves they try to program you with. But yeah, man, dysfunctionality is not it. And so,
Yeah.
but they have to keep promoting this stuff, and they need the attention. And so basically the Dylan Brooks part of it is the embarrassment was worth it.
Yeah.
Because attention is attention for people that just want attention. And yeah, they'll gnaw their own hands off just so everybody can go, God damn, he gnawed his hand off. And then, yeah, it's like, why? But I needed attention. And so this is a attention hungry group of people. So like I said, man, they all deserve each other. This all makes sense to me, and have at it, y'all. We'll just keep covering it here. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I can sit up here and say that the price of the attention wasn't worth the embarrassment, but that's because of the way that I process information.
Yeah, you ain't them, man.
So yeah, to others it was well worth it for sure, and that's the disconnect. And I find that to be unfortunate because there's plenty of people out there in the public eye who get their fair share of attention, who can avoid this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned Denzel. He's above board. You'll never see this. And it is what it is. I just think that there's clearly a divide, and there's two different schools of thought when it comes to attention and acceptable forms of behavior, and we've just taken things a little too far in my estimation. But hey man, I guess it was worth it to them. Whatever. It is what it is. I kind of think it's gross. But what are you gonna do, man? Narcissism is way out of control. Yeah,
man.
Doja Cat showing up to the Met Gala looking like an actual cat, and that's being heralded and celebrated as like, she made this wonderful fashion statement. She looked like a cat. She looked like a cat. Like she looked ridiculous. But I don't know. I just can't get down with this stuff, man. I can't. I don't know. I guess I'm just. Yeah,
started on the
I have an old soul for real, man. It's crazy, but I think Nick Cannon is on to it. So Nick Cannon, I got you. Good job. You're right. And if those women on your radio show start their own version of that kind of red table talk thing, please fire all of them.
First of all, ain't nobody gonna watch that crap.
Yeah.
Because who the hell are they? And we don't want to hear your. That's what I said. Your dirty table. I want to hear about that.
Well, you should still fire him anyway. on principle, just fire him.